Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Messy Brilliance Show. I'm Kelly, the founder of Women for One, and once again, I get to talk to this incredibly powerful woman who is going to be expressing her messiness today. And Mona Patel is the CEO and founder of Motivate Design, which is a user-centric design agency based in New York, which I love. New York City is one of my favorite places. And Mona has worked with some of the biggest brands, including NASA, which is so cool, BMW, Microsoft, to optimize their customers' experiences, which I find is really interesting. And being this entrepreneur she is, she's also an author of a book called Reframe, Shift the Way You Work, Innovate, and Think, and the Thing About Swings. Do you want me to say that again?
No, I think you're perfect.
Hi. And she's a speaker, and she's the mother of two boys, which, I always lead with being a mom, Mona. Welcome.
Because thank you very much. And thank you for bringing it up. I really love it as a part of how people get to know me. So thanks for reading that.
Yeah, I'm just really excited to be here. And you've been just so incredibly generous with your time with me and your wisdom. And I'm just really excited to introduce you to our community. And I hope all of Women for One's community and the social media community will benefit from all of the wisdom that you've gained over the years with all of your mess ups and also your successes. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kelly, for such a warm welcome. Thanks. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah.
I'm nervous.
So, oh, well, thanks for being real. Let's just get down and dirty and let's talk about your story a little, because that's what Women for One's about. And so can you tell the Women for One community a little bit about how you came to be where you are today, in a nutshell, couple minutes?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So where I am today is evolving, but what I'm good at, what I'm known for, I think, is helping companies figure out what they're missing when it comes to how customers feel about them, what they're doing, what they're not doing, that missing link, and then strategize and come up with ideas to solve for that. And that's been what I've been doing in my professional career for the last 20 years. NASA was one of my favorite projects where there was a Hubble Space Telescope control room. This is in 1998 or so. And it's a good example of what I do. And the scientists weren't communicating with one another. So NASA wants scientists to communicate. We get brought in to say, go figure out why, and then tell us what to do to fix it. And so we figured out why, which is there's cubicle walls that were really high. And so they didn't see each other, and they are often introverted and don't want to reach out. We just removed the cubicle walls, which is a big deal in 1998. There's no open layouts.
That's right. Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff I love, is kind of seeing an opportunity where everyone sees a problem and then activating on it. So did that pre-web for a little bit. The web took off, and that was really fun because it was just cowboys designing and doing whatever they wanted. And so that was a great time to be designing. And then I came to start Motivate in 2009, actually, where I just did more of this. In my mind, this doesn't need to be that expensive. It doesn't need to be a full, 6-month effort. Doing quick research, learning, guessing, and then iterating as you go is a big part of our methodology here. And that's what we have brought to the clients that you mentioned. Some of my favorites are Nike, First Republic Bank, Capital One, Pfizer, companies like that, where they really are looking for some inspiration and guidance. So that's what I still love to do. And then some.
Well, you sound so innovative. Where did you come up with, wanting to be this entrepreneur, create this? What formed you when you were younger that moved you into the space?
Did not decide this. So actually someone just brought this up earlier today. My brother and I sitting on my parents' couch, and he's an entrepreneur. My dad's an entrepreneur. I married an entrepreneur. They're all over my family. And they kept questioning why I was making other people money. I do have a fast mind and innovative mind. And they were just like, you're like a chess piece. You're not even an important chess piece. And I was like, I am. I felt very defensive and very nervous. And this is something that actually a lot of people don't know. But my husband was like, well, how about this? I'll start a company and you'll be my employee and I'll pay you. And then whatever you make, I'll keep. And I was like, what? No, I'll do it myself. Right.
Good for you. Yeah.
But it was, I needed them. Like they knew what they were doing as entrepreneurs. I did not know what I was doing as an entrepreneur. I would never have called myself one. But I wanted to go out on my own. And then as soon as I did, I got pregnant. As soon as like 2 months later.
So you were creating a human being and a company.
Everything. I was creating everything.
Creation, the feminine creation, right?
That's what and honestly, we had tried for a while before then. And as soon as I left my company and started freelancing, which is all I was doing, like it really wasn't a company. It was Mona, but we just had a lot of work and I was going to take some time off. And so I started hiring people to do the work for clients that I cared a lot about. And then when I came back from maternity leave, all the projects were going better than when I do them. Because I'm a bit of a whirlwind. I'm a bit of a tornado.
Yeah, and I get it. I'm the same.
Yeah, I know what I'm good at. I'm good at wrecking ball. But they were doing better. And so I did not step back in, and I spent time doing other things, mainly bringing in more work. And so it was super organic, very messy, very messy. A lot of P&L mistakes because I wasn't watching it. I was just kind of doing what I felt like doing.
Right. I've been there. Yeah, I think a lot of
shitty story, to be honest, about feminine energy. Because I was doing what I was feeling, and I've had to undo that because I just wasn't doing it well. But you can still follow how you feel.
I like that you say that, because there's like this place where intuitively women really want to do what they want to do. Mm-hmm. Yet we do need to incorporate that masculine quality of like, okay, critical thinking and what is going to produce like real active choices and conscious choices around how we move forward.
I've been struggling. Well, not struggling. I've been teeter-tottering between act based on how I feel and act based on a strategy. And like that's exactly what you just said. It has to be both. Like, yes, I can feel a certain way, but I've also hired a few male coaches who were like, Mona, I don't care how you feel. You have to have a good strategy, to get out of this or into a new situation. Like, have a plan.
Right.
So good mix is what I've been trying to do.
I think it's really important to integrate it. I've written about it, but I also think it's the new feminine, that integration of that masculine and feminine pieces. It is the new feminine leadership to do. And I did the same thing as you. I made a lot of mistakes and followed what I wanted to do and didn't look at my P&L. I mean, it's so interesting. We get excited and passionate and we just dive into the creativity, right?
I'm like, what's the logo going to look like of whatever I'm doing next? I'm like, no. Like, hold on.
Right. And
but I'm laughing at myself now, which is very different than, even 2 years ago.
You could be light about it, right? I mean,
yes.
It is what it is, and you move forward. My husband's been great at teaching me that as a partner. Like, it is what it is. He's started so many companies and this investor of all these new ideas, but he's much more grounded in strategy than I am. So it's a nice balance for sure.
So it's I've been often thinking about like, do a stand-up comedy act about my own life. That's the way I think about it sometimes, of like, what would I make fun of if I was tasked to make fun of Mona? And then I do, and then I'm like, see, it's still funny. Like, it doesn't matter that it's me. It's still funny that I do these things, and it helps me accept it, I think, when it's funny.
That's great. That's really cool.
Like, thinking about how I've been like evolved in this way, just making fun of myself and truly laughing, like belly laughing at how ridiculous I am sometimes, has been a huge help.
I love that. So that would be a good takeaway for our community. You can belly laugh at yourself. I mean, a lot of times my team, like, they'll just like, Kelly, what are you doing? Like, and they're very respectful, but they're like, And I'm like, it's just who I am, right? And I've also had a friend say, how do you get so much done? Your mind works in so many different ways. I have ADD and I'm all over the place, but that is the nature of creativity. And I just have to harness that creativity and calm it down sometimes and laugh at myself a little bit more.
And you are definitely a role model for me when it comes to accepting myself. And I think a lot about when I laugh at myself, it's okay. When other people laugh at me or make fun of my attention challenges or, like the fact that I am very direct and sometimes don't even realize that I'm being direct, like they'll laugh at me. And sometimes that hurts a little more, I will be honest. Mm-hmm. But when I join in on laughing, like 10-15%, it's helping, I guess, like it still does hurt when people judge me or kind of put me in a category because they have to.
Yeah, it always hurts, and it hurts all kinds of women. It hurts me too. I
Right?
kind of got over that a couple years ago because I've been told how direct I am, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's shocking to people. And I don't. It is who I am, so I surround myself with a sisterhood that knows that I'm coming from a true place, and I'm not going to get it right. And sometimes I'm offensive, and I don't mean it, and I try to be conscious around it. But taking it personally anymore, it's just wasted energy to me. And I
Now
think
I'm just getting into advice now. So this is actually something that just came up, and it's something I don't know how to solve for. So I am obviously told I'm direct. That can be challenging to people. They feel like I'm being hard on them, or that I don't appreciate the good, and so on. So one thing I've been struggling with is there's who I am and how I am, which let's just say is direct. And then there's the impact that I'm having on someone else, and when to change who I am so that I have a better impact. And it's an open question that I have no idea. And I keep seeming to
I
hit
love
the
that.
dead end when I try to fix it. Like, do I change who I am so that I can have the impact I want to have?
Well, I feel like it's more percentages than anything. It's not one or the other. It's you shift, you have consciousness and awareness around that shape shifting, but know and be grounded in who you are with your values and your belief systems. I mean, you can't completely change. Change is is a big word, right? But do you shift? If you give an experience that's different that you can understand, but if you shift completely and change for others, that's going to abandon yourself. And that's the worst thing I think women can do, is to abandon themselves. That's my opinion.
I love it. So then maybe it would look something like asking permission and saying, I have a thought. It's pretty direct. Do you want
Yeah, it's a balance, right?
Yeah.
It's that balance. And I have a thought and I'm, very direct and
Yeah, if you want to hear it or not. Like, it's okay if you say no. What do I know? Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Well, that's great, that you can, so we've established we can laugh at ourselves. And I mean, you told me once, you said that your strategies are empathy driven and human centered. And
Yeah.
that's so about feminine leadership in so many ways. So your intentions are there, you're doing it, you're questioning, you're getting curious. I mean, listen to you talking about this. A lot of people are like, women or men wouldn't even think of questioning it. And you're constantly being curious about how you're moving through the world, right? And I just want to know, what does that mean to you, the empathy driven and human centeredness, and how has it shaped your idea of success in a business?
So, great example is something that happened last night. We're working with a client who has an app that whatever you use the app for to consume a product, and they've had a huge dip in people downloading and using their app. So they hired us to find out why, which we did. We did a round of research, and we said, so here are the 4 reasons why people no longer use your app. And one of the reasons is that their customers don't feel valued, right? So you buy something, the app delivers it, and then if you have a problem, they're like, yeah, we don't care. And the empathy driven, when you say it like that, the business says, well, who cares, right? Like,
Right.
we got our money, and there's no more money to get by making them happy. In fact, it's less money because now we have to go fix their problem. Better not to ask them.
Right.
My solution is, have you ever worked with a business that intentionally devalued you?
Hmm.
Like, put yourself in a situation.
Empathy driven. Right. Think about it.
That's what got the CEO to change his view. Where I said,
Wonderful.
in a situation where you had an interaction with a company, it was very clear they did not give a shit about you. It could be your cable company, it could be a hospital, it could be anybody that put you on hold for 35 minutes to deliver furniture, anything like that.
Right.
Now, would you work with them again? And then I contrasted it with an experience I had with Room and Board, where I ordered a rug, and it was dark gray. I got the rug and it looks blue. And I'm a designer, so I'm like, dude, this is blue. This is not gray. They were like,
Right.
well, we'll tell you the samples. We'll send you the samples so you can see you got what you paid for. So I got the samples, and lo and behold, they're gray. Kind of looks blue in my apartment. Maybe it's the light.
Yeah, right.
So I send them the picture. I'm like, okay, you guys are right. It's exactly the color of the sample. I guess I'll just deal with the blue. And Room and Board wrote back to me and said, it doesn't look good. Let us send you the light gray on us.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And
That's
so
great.
I was kind of contrasting those things. So one is empathy driven in the sense that they know what I'm actually after, which is a beautiful room.
Right.
Like, literally, I did order what I was supposed to order, and they don't have to do anything.
Right.
But they didn't. Like they understood where I was coming from. They, they know that I'm going to stare at this thing every day and hate room and board. And so they fixed that. And now I love them. And I talk to them about them on podcasts. Right. So that's what I mean by empathy driven is really putting yourself not in the shoes of, it's such a boring way to say it, but remembering when you felt what you want your customers to feel and then doing everything you can to help them feel that way.
Yeah. And the human-centered piece is huge. You don't want to feel like a number, and I mean, I had a similar with Wayfair. I had a similar experience, and I was very frustrated because they canceled an order and we were waiting for my daughter to go down to her college. And I was not a happy customer when I got on that call, and she spent 45 minutes on the phone with me and we figured it out. And it was kind of both our faults in some ways. Yeah. And she just owned it. She was wonderful, and she resolved the whole thing and resent it. And I thought, this is good customer service. I mean, this is excellent. I will go back to Wayfair, where other places, sorry, we can't help you. It's a totally different place.
And that's the thing where it's really fun to go into businesses and have this conversation because they think customers are fickle and, just want and take. And that's not true. There's countless examples of yours with Wayfair, mine with Room and Board. There's, many more that we could go through where people become loyal to set of values that a company embodies. And if you can pick those values and show and kind of design your customer journey so that they represent those values, you do get the lines out the door. You do get the loyalty. You do get the people telling their friends that you create.
Right. And so you do this, but then also you created Insider Insight, which is this part of what you did?
Yeah. So a lot of times, I love Insider Insight so much. I mean, it is definitely some of my best work in my career. And actually part of why I'm feeling like there's a chapter change coming because I'm proud of it and it's good. So Insider Insight is a method, it's a research method, qualitative research method that we created here because we felt like a lot of times companies go in and they'll do a survey or they'll do a focus group and they have a set of questions, they get the answers, and then they check off that they did the research and they didn't learn anything. So, I would just challenge, is that insightful, right? You have all these agencies that say, we're going to deliver you insight, but that's not insightful if I knew everything. So the premise of Insider Insight is you have two people, ideally of the same demographic or psychographic profile, but it doesn't have to be, who know each other and they have a conversation on a topic. So I'll actually take you through a case study if you want. But there was one on gun control and why people keep their guns loaded and unlocked in a home with kids. So this research has been done many, many times. There's surveys, there's a bunch of focus groups, there's a bunch of agencies that have been hired for nonprofit and for-profit to figure this out, right? And what Insider Insight does is remove the moderator and remove one kind of bias and instill another one, essentially, with two people who know each other talking to one another. So we had two gun owners having a conversation about how they store their guns and why they choose to do it that way. And when people can be themselves and open up, it's a different kind of data than what you get in survey results and focus groups. And it's like
I've run a lot of focus groups in my last career, right? That's what I did for cities and governments. And I always felt like, obviously I had a bias, right? And I was drawn to certain people and people were trying to look good in front of me. So how do you do that? You just have them have a conversation.
So you have two, so you lose control. And that's the thing that has been insane for the companies that we work with to understand. But two people are going to have a conversation. They're going to take it every which way they want. It's going to be a conversation in real life. And in there, you're not going to get necessarily only answers. You're going to get questions that you should have been asking. And I think that is way more powerful than the answers. The questions that you could be asking, should be asking, didn't think to ask is the promise of Insider Insight. And it's delivered every time. Every time I get so nervous when we do this because I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Because I also like control. And you come back and these transcripts and audio files are so juicy. We've had CEOs, CMOs listening to the recordings of two friends talking to one another, which has never happened when I do a focus group. I don't know anybody who's listened to a focus group thing on the drive to work, but this often, it feels like a podcast. And it gets your brain or your gears thinking in a different way of why did they say that? Or what did they mean?
You get curious. You apply one of the tools in my book, right? You get very curious and you get a different kind of an awareness. I mean, it feels like you're compiling people's experiences and stories, not data. Right?
That's how we deliver the results. We deliver them as stories. so that you can feel what it's like. So there was one project that we did around aging. It's a telecom company who doesn't want you to go to a retirement home because then they can't charge your house for cable, right? So they want you to stay in your home. So they wanted to study like what could they do to help people stay in their homes. And our stories were about what it's like, for a couple who has had strong careers, now both retired and stuck in a home together where they keep tripping on one another. They're not attracted to one another anymore. There's nowhere to go. It's cold outside. Those stories are very powerful. Even though it doesn't seem related to what the client asked, it's exactly what the client needed to hear to understand where there was opportunity space for them to innovate.
It's so innovative. That's so cool.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's really
Okay. So speaking of like reframing, right? I want to talk about your book a little because you're the author of Reframe, Shift the Way You Work, Innovate, and Think. So first of all, I love that title because that's what I'm asking people to do at Women for One, really looking at their stories in a different way, reframing what has happened to them and gleaning that wisdom out of it and taking it. So, and you also talk about like how people feel stuck at work, right? And so tell me a little bit about your book and some of the techniques you offer to help people get unstuck and unlock their creativity.
So the book actually has the exact workshop that we run. It's a 2-day workshop. It takes you through the whole thing so you can do it yourself. And that was my initial goal. It still is the primary goal, so that you don't need to work with me or Motivate to use our techniques. You can just read that book and do it yourself. So that's Reframe has that. But it came from a project that we did where just Universe is so hilarious. I actually just talked to that client this week for the first time in years, where we did a lot of work to help them figure out the personas, like who they should be targeting and what makes these people tick. And when we delivered it, the client that we worked with said, well, that's like very new. And I don't think we can do anything with that because it's so new. And I just like, it was the first time it hit me. Like I get hired to give insight and to give people something new, but not everybody's ready for something new. And so how do I get them ready to hear something new, to try something new, to feel something new, to do something new? Well, they have to reframe the way they're viewing the current problem. I have to move them from like freaking out because they've never seen something before to excited, curious, interested, all the things that you and I both talk about. So the book is about that, about, if you don't see a solution, maybe it's part you and it's not that the solution doesn't exist. And then the second part is now that you believe that the solution might be out there, let's go get it. Here's a 2-day protocol for doing it. And then the thing about swings, which is the book about an elephant that redesigns a swing set, is the same story, but for a younger audience.
That's so, okay, first of all, that's so cool. And I was just riding in the car with my husband the other day, we were talking, and he's a CEO of one company and invested in 2 others, a major investor. And he was talking about every company he's working with now, the public, it's cutting edge, and the public is having a hard time jumping on board with it. Like everything, there's no competition. It's so innovative, but yet, he can't figure out how to get his customers on board, right? Because nobody is thinking that way yet. And I'm like, oh, well, we're going to be getting him your book.
Yes, I would love that. I would love that. Because the kids' book, all the money goes to charity. So I would love that even more.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Thank you. Thank you. And it's, this is something that you either get it or you need to get it, right? I just had a meeting with a woman whose responsibility it is to get women of color on boards. And she said to me, you're too young. I'm 41. So I'm like, really? How much older can I be?
I know. It's amazing. They think I'm too young because I look younger than I am. It's kind of fun.
Me
How old do you have to be?
So I'm too young to be on a board, which I know many people who are on, so that doesn't make sense. And then she also said, design thinking, innovation, larger corporations haven't valued it enough for a board seat.
Wow.
And so, these are very new concepts still.
People on board with that, right?
I'm like, get me on that board. Let me yell at everybody.
Let me talk to you guys. But it's almost like your brain and your creativity works like the younger generation. I mean, I know you're not older, but my children in their early 20s, I mean, they'll be like, Mom, I don't even think even close to the way they think innovatively, right? And so not even just technology, it's just the way they are brought up now. their brains are just like, they roll their eyes at me when I'm, I'm like the Stone Age for them, so you're like there, but you're 41, which is got to be a challenge because you're trying to bring everybody along with you.
I still get the eye rolls from my kids for sure. They're like, you're very uncool. I'm like, honestly, I'm really cool. I don't know what you're talking about, but so we argue about whether I'm cool or not. I don't think it's a great, thank you for, firstly, thank you. I don't think I am as innovative as maybe I sound. I think it's that empathy-driven, human-centered approach, right? I listen and I repeat. So if I hear someone say, we want more women and minorities on boards, and then I hear you say, but not you, that immediately triggers my brain to go, whoa, whoa, whoa.
That's like, not a literal statement. Yes, right.
Yeah, pick one. Pick one.
Yeah.
You wanted, so then train or add or change your values,
right.
so that you have the people who exist available to join you.
Well, it sounds certainly like your brilliance for sure, that you can really listen and identify those kind of things. But okay, so I've got a quick question for you.
Okay.
What have you learned about success through making mistakes?
What have I learned about success through making mistakes? Well, firstly, I think making mistakes is success, because that means put myself out there, right? Like,
yep.
The fact that, because I am scared of mistakes, I'm scared of failure, I'm scared of rejection. Mm-hmm. So if I make a mistake, that means I went for something. And I am very proud of that, because that's something that I am counting as things that will matter on my deathbed. How many things I tried to do, even if I did it or not, like, it doesn't matter. Did I put myself out there enough? So that's my first answer. But I think deeper than that, I keep looking at other people to help me define success. And one of the things that I've learned is mistakes that I think are huge mistakes nobody cares about. And the mistakes that I'm like, I don't care. Like, not knowing how to read a P&L, people are like, how did you,
Right.
So I'm realizing, screw everyone else and their rules about success. Like, I really need to know what I consider success, and then make all the mistakes I need to make to get to my version.
That's awesome. Like, getting clear about your values, your talents, your belief systems, and then moving forward with that, because you can always hire someone to look at your P&L.
Exactly. It's like, and if I don't know how to do it, or I don't do it well, I could get to a place where I'm good enough, which is where I've gotten to now, but it's not like it's going to fuel me.
Right. No, right. Definitely. So what are some tips that you might have? I know that I'm just like drilling into this, but women are always asking me about success. So for women who are looking to unlock their own definition of success, and we don't just have to talk about entrepreneurship, we could talk about life in general. Like, what are some tips that you kind of anchor into to really be successful?
I definitely don't. I try to stay away from the capital S success word. I don't
think it's good
that you can get to and then you're done and you're like, I'm successful. No matter, I don't know anybody who would say I'm successful and I'm done. So lowercase success is about goal setting then for me, and picking a goal that I can do, but pushes me outside of my comfort zone. And I don't nail that every single time. It's kind of like a bell curve. So most of the time I'm shooting for, I've never done it before. It's something new, different for me, and I could get it done. Sometimes I shoot too high and something I couldn't get done, but I tried and I feel good about it. Sometimes it's super easy and I just want to check things off and feel good about myself. And I'm okay with that too. I know that some days I need to treat my little girl well and make her feel like she's winning. It's the same thing I do with my kids, like, is it really exciting? 2 + 2 is 4? No, but sometimes hearing great job gets you to want to do more. And so I think I'm constantly reading, do I want an easy goal or a hard goal? And, how is this fitting with what I've been doing this month, this quarter, this year? And hitting that. And every time I do that, I feel successful. Not capital S, but lowercase s. And like, that keeps me present, keeps me grounded, keeps me feeling like I'm contributing.
Because it's a journey, right? Success is such a journey. And I mean, when someone's asked me that, I've said the same, very similar answer to you around success for me. It's all about, once again, what I identify as my values in my life and what is important to me. And am I not just hitting goals, but like what's important to me is, you know, my connection with my partner, my health, my children, right? My family, and being there for them. And also having something in my life other than that that I can move towards. But I've really let go of this I've got to climb this ladder and do something with my life thing, the image in my head. It's, I don't know, maybe it's hitting 50. I mean, I definitely want to keep doing it, but it's in a new place of unfolding instead of like a driven linear line. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's just,
I love that. And actually, I love that you brought up hitting 50, because I think maybe we've branded it or marketed it in such a way, but I'm definitely feeling decade changes as completely different mindset shifts.
yeah,
You know, so
yeah.
40 has turned into like, I don't give a, like I say it more, I feel it more. I really couldn't. And for certain situations, it's like, I hear you, don't care. And I've never had that in my 30s, but it came at the 40s. And, you know, some of my best friends are in their 50s and they say the same thing to me, that it's not linear. That's what you realize at 50.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, look
Just,
at all these concentric circles that I've been in.
yeah. And definitely. And I'm like, I literally, I see this like bubble, like, wait a minute,
Mhm.
you know, or Stephen Colbert. Meanwhile, like, I'm literally like, wait a minute, why am I here? And what do I want to be doing with my life? Do I want to be on this rat race, you know, chasing something that's not really existing? Or do I want to just be present and enjoy life? And I think the older I get, the more I want to just be present. I mean, I cannot believe my youngest is 19 and a sophomore in college. Like, I blinked and it was over, like having kids at home. So
Oh,
you know, you look
my
now,
stomach
it's
just
like,
reacted to that. Like my gut just reacted to what you just said there. Because my
yeah, I
kids
mean,
are
it's just
young.
this
They're 6
place
and
of
9. Yeah.
wow, you know, I mean, yes. And it was intense with 6 kids at home with
Woo!
3 of my own and 3 stepchildren, a blended family. And we're closer than ever. And we all got through it. And we're like such a tight knit family from it. And so that's my value. So really identifying those values is so important to me too, Mona, like really
I
figuring it
love
out.
this. I love this. And I love how you're embracing letting go. It's something that I've been really struggling with the last 6 months, and trying my best not to struggle, but allowing myself to feel the struggle. You know, what I'm doing with my career, well, since January, I've invested in coaching and really a lot of reflection time to figure out what am I being pulled toward? You know, if I stop pushing, which is what I've been doing the last decade, and I just listen, who am I supposed to be serving and how am I supposed to be serving them? And it's been such I'm going to call it a game, but
Right.
it's been really hard the last couple months, because I've let go of things that people think I shouldn't let go of. I've held on to things that people don't value. And that's what I meant by like, I'm not listening anymore to other people. I'm really, really trying to follow your advice, actually, in your awesome book, go within. And
Right. And trust that inner rudder, like that inner
yes,
guidance for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, it's scary. It's very scary, especially when you have, you know, when people see you as successful. I think
Right.
the most common thing I've heard this year is like, why? You know, why are you changing what you're doing because what you're doing is working? It's like, for whom?
Hmm.
Who's it working
Hmm.
for? For
Right.
you because you have a steady payroll, you know, or for me because it's not working for me.
Right, right.
And then
That's
other
so
people like,
awesome. And
yeah,
I had this big aha that we were just talking about insider insight. You're doing your own insider insight for
yes,
yourself.
yeah,
You're having
it's
a
true.
conversation with yourself, right? And being curious and looking at it and really diving into, you know, your internal dialogue about what is next for you and coming up with some juicy tidbits, it sounds
It's
like.
like, what's next for me? What kind of legacy do I want to leave? What do I stand for? You know, I believe Insider Insight should be a product, like a platform that you log into, you put in like, who do I want to talk, who do I want to hear from? What do I want to hear? And then, you know, 72 hours later, you get a transcript. That's
It's
what I believe
amazing.
it to be. That doesn't have as much money as what I have done and would do. And I still want to do it. So it's things like that,
That's
you know, where
awesome though.
I'm going with I'm going with my intuition, which is very feminine. I'm being pulled. I'm trusting that the right partners will show up. All of that, which it feels different from the way I have been operating, I'd say the last 5 years, which is here's my goal, get the goal. Here's my goal, get the goal. So maybe I'm going to actually amend my success definition to success also for me currently means hearing and following a path that I wouldn't have thought of if I didn't stop and take a breath.
Right. Slow down. It's funny. My last question for you is about what advice would you give women, that are wanting to create a legacy and asking themselves a question like, what is my legacy? What do I want to, how do I want to show up in this world? And you've been talking about that for the last 5 minutes,
Yeah.
Can you summarize that?
I actually have a different thing coming to me. Breakdown is, I guess, what's coming to me right now. Like, I think a lot was released during this one day where I said goodbye to a person I've worked with for a long time, and I just started crying. And so much stuff released for me when I just stopped being who I thought I needed to be. So I would say, if whatever technique works for you, crying, running, venting, journaling, well, actually, I would say, like, whatever you think works for you, don't do that and do something new, right? But like, actually cut through that in a very piercing way so that you can invent as cells versus, trying to use what you already are good at or what people know you for or whatever.
That's
been
awesome.
big for me. That's
break
been really
down and dive in, cut through, break down, right? That's
build
amazing.
from cells. Build from cells.
That's awesome. Build from self. Yeah. That's amazing. Well, it's been so great to talk to you. I feel like I'm just talking to like a best friend. That's what I love.
That's how I feel.
And we could talk forever. Maybe we should do a series and start the stories, the stories that Insider Insight in a different way. But
I'm in for anything you want anytime. You are just such a rock for so many people. So I hope more people are going to do what I'm about to do, which is say anything you need, anytime you need it, you call me. Done.
Oh, thank you, Mona. I appreciate it. And I just say, I hope our community can really get so much guidance and wisdom and inspiration from this conversation, because there's so many women out there that want to start a business, want to be coaches, and all of the advice that you're giving and that wisdom from all your mistakes and all your successes, right? And your version of the lowercase s is so powerful for people. So thank you again for joining us. And let us know, email both of us, email me at info@women4one or Kelly at women4one. Tell me what you think of this interview and get Mona's book and reach out to her as well. How can people find you?
So I'm on Instagram. It's Mona K. Patel. Or you can just email me, mona@motivatedesign.com, or anything you want. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. A quick Mona Patel UX should be able to find any path you want.
Anything about you. All right. Well, thank you, Mona, again. Take care, everyone.
Bye everyone.
Bye.